Hello and welcome to Cannon County High School Algebra 2. This is another in our series of videos designed to help those of you who are trying to do some makeup work for quarter 3 to bring your grade up to passing. And today we're going to look at how to do IXL S.13. So Mr. Lyon, I'm going to have you sit over here and let's talk about compound interest. Compound interest, as you know, uses this formula. A is equal to P times parentheses 1 plus R divided by N, all raised to the N times T power. Well, that's complicated and that looks crazy, but here's what it means. A is the balance or the final amount of money in the investment. P is the principal or the starting amount of money in the investment. 1 is just 1. R is the interest rate as a decimal. So again, if that's 8%, you'd write that as 0.08. And N is the number of times that the interest is compounded. Sometimes this is called compounding units. For instance, if it says it's compounded annually, that means it's 1. If it says compounded quarterly, that means 4. If it means compounded monthly, that means 12. It's the number of times that the interest is compounded per year. Okay, that is when people ask me questions about these problems, that's usually the part that they get frustrated by. Just remember, in the problem, it will usually say something like annually or quarterly or monthly, and that's your key to that part. N here is the same as N here. That's the number of times that it's compounded, and T is time in years. So we're going to be doing all of those on this IXL. Let's take a look at one. All right, I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit so you can read this. And notice in the problem, they give you the formula, so you're never going to be without the formula. But you are going to want to have some paper out because some of these problems will require that you do just a little bit of work. So this one says, Dustin puts $600 into an account to use for school expenses. The account earns 9% interest, compounded annually, so that means 1. How much will be in the account after 7 years? So it looks like 600 is the principal, 9% is the interest rate R, compounded annually means that N is going to be 1. How much will be in the account after 7 years? 7 years is T. So they've given us everything we need to plug this into our calculator to find A. So let's do that. First, I'm just going to write it down so I know what to write into what to type into my calculator. All right, we said that this was going to be 600 times 1 plus the interest rate in the problem said 9%, so that's 0.09, divided by, it said compounded annually, so that means 1, goes down there. And then up here, the N is going to be a 1, and it said that the number of years was 7. So this is what I'm typing into my calculator. So again, I'm using the Calculate 84 app on my phone. I've got it on the iPad here. And we're just going to type this in and see what we get. So here we go. 600 parenthesis 1 plus 0.09 divided by 1. And now I'm going to get outside of the parenthesis. And I'm going to raise all this to a power. And the button that you use to do that is right here. It's the one, I call it the caret button. It's the one just above the divided by, right there. So on your calculator, you hit that button, and you raise all of this to the 1 times 7 power. So you can see on the calculator, it even looks very similar to what we have written on the paper. That's the nice thing about this calculator. Hit enter, and we're going to round this off to the nearest cent, because this is a money problem, so that means the nearest hundredth. So this is $1,096.82. The 3 says we're going to round that 2 down. So that means we've got $1,096.82. All right, let's see if it likes that. Let's type that in here. $1,096.82. And when I hit enter, it tells me I did well, which makes me all happy. Let's try another one. All right. Kayla opened a savings account and deposited $700 as principal. The account earns 14% interest, compounded monthly. What is the balance after 7 years? Okay, so 700 is principal, 14% is the interest rate. Compounded monthly, that means for this N, we're gonna be putting in a what? That's right, a 12 monthly. So it's 12 months in a year. Let's see, what's the balance after 7 years? Well, that means that T is gonna be 7. So let me write all that down so I know what to type into the calculator again. Let's see here. We've got $700, 1 plus, the interest rate in this case is 0.14. I'm going to divide that by the number of compounding units, which we just said was 12. Now the number of compounding units also goes up here, times the number of years, which in this case is 7. So very similar to the previous problem. I'm going to type that in, see what we get. 700, parenthesis, 1 plus 0.14 divided by 12. Now get out of the parenthesis and raise that to the 12 times 7 power. So you make it look very similar, and that's why I like to write it down on paper first. But make sure it looks just like that before you hit enter. Now when I hit enter, I get $1,054 and 0.569. Well, that 9 says we should round that 6 up to a 7. So that means that it's going to be $1,854.57. And you all know that IXL is really picky about rounding. If you round off incorrectly, you get the whole thing wrong. So be very careful. A lot of times that's the part that people mess up. 1,854.57. And we got it right. All right. Let's jump up a level and see if they can make these problems any more difficult for us. Let's see this one. Maya opened a savings account 7 years ago. The account earns 9% interest, compounded quarterly. If the current balance is $1,000, how much did she deposit initially? Do you see how this problem is a little different? This time, they're not telling us, they're not asking us what the final amount is. They're telling us that the current balance is $1,000. That's the final amount. How much did she deposit initially? That means they want us to solve for the principal. So, remember our formula here. They're telling us what A is, and they want us to figure out what P is. So we're going to have to do some work on paper for this one. So let's bring this over here. Let's bring the paper back in here. So we know that the final amount is $1,000. That's going to equal some number that we don't know, times 1 plus, let's see, the interest rate was 9%, so 0.09. How many times were they compounded? It says compounded quarterly. Quarterly means 4. So there are 4 compounding units. Remember that goes up here also. 4 should match right there. And the number of years is 7 years ago. So we have to do some algebra for this. It's P times whatever number this is equals 1,000. Well, let's just figure out what that number is. So we can have 1,000 equals P times some number here. So let's figure out what this is right here. All right, let's see. That's going to be parenthesis 1 plus 0.09 divided by 4. Okay, get outside of the parenthesis and raise all that to the 4 times 7 power. Hit enter, and I get that number. Okay, so 1.86 and so on. So that's what I'm putting right here, 1.86 and so on. Notice I'm not rounding it off. I'm just going to leave it all that on my calculator. I'm going to show you how to do this. If we want to get P all by itself, then we know we have to divide both sides of this equation by this big long number, 1.86 and so on. So that means P is going to equal whatever 1,000 divided by this is. Here's how you do that on your calculator without ever rounding it off. Type in 1,000 divided by, and then you hit the second function And the second function of the negative key, way down here, says ANS. That stands for answer. So that means it'll type in whatever the last thing that you have on the calculator is for an answer. I want to take 1,000 divided by that number. So I just hit second, oops, get out of there, second, and that negative key, and it puts in 1,000 divided by the answer. So I'm taking 1,000 divided by that 1.86 number. I don't want to round it off, because if I round it off too quickly, I could be off by a penny, and being off by a penny on IXL means you're going to get the whole thing wrong. So I get $536.32. Notice the 3 here says we're going to round that 2 down. So that's $536.32. And that is what I'm going to type into the calculator, or into the answer here. So 536.32, and it tells me I got it right. So remember, to get up to an 80% on this IXL, you've got to do a little bit of work here on some of these. You can't do this all in your calculator, okay? Let's see if we can jump up another level and do one more problem, get closer to 80%. Okay, this will be our last one. Let's try this one. I think if we know how to do this kind of problem, that'll get us up to 80%. Stefan opened a savings account and deposited $300 as principal. Okay, they're giving us the principal this time. The account earns 12% interest compounded monthly. How much interest will he earn after 10 years? Okay, well, this doesn't sound too bad, because it sounds like let's see, they want the final amount. They haven't given us the final amount, but it says how much interest. Is interest the final amount? No, it's not. Interest is how much more you have than what you put in. So do you see what they're asking here? They do want you to find the final amount, but then what do you have to do to that final amount with this principal to figure out the amount of interest? Yeah, you're going to have to subtract. Whatever we get for an answer is going to be more than $3,000. But then we have to subtract the $3,000 out of that to get the amount of interest that we've earned. So you can see the higher level, the more complicated the problem. So let's figure this one out. Let's see. The initial amount deposited was $3,000. So that's 3,000 times 1 plus. The interest rate was 12%, so that's 0.12. Compounded monthly, so that's 12. Remember that 12 also goes up here. And the number of years is 10 years. So that will tell us what the final amount is. So let's do that first. 3,000, parenthesis, 1 plus 0.12 divided by 12. Raise all of that to the 12 times 10 power, and that gives us $9,901.16 if we rounded it off to the nearest penny. Okay, I'm going to write that down. $9,901.16. Now, what did we say at the beginning? They want us to figure out how much interest was earned. They don't want to know what the final amount of money was. They want to know how much interest was earned. Since we started out with $3,000, we have to subtract off that $3,000 to figure out how much interest was earned. So that's going to be, let's see, this number minus this number would be $6,901.16. This is the amount of interest. So when you're doing these problems, you have to be careful and really read the problem to make sure you know what they're asking for. Because if we would have typed in the $9,901, we would have got this wrong for sure. $6,901.16. There we go. Okay? So, I hope this helps. That was S13. If you have any questions, just put them below in the comments. And thanks for watching. We will talk to you soon. Bye.